Hey, this is for everybody who has already met their karmic soulmate, twin flame, soulmate. And for those of you who are still thinking, who is he? Who is she? Where can I find them? So before I start, I'm going to just explain to you the spread that I have developed for this occasion. So here are the significators that I'm using for this particular reading. Remember, significators mean that this is going to be the same for every sign. The reason why I'm choosing them, it's sort of like the category that I really want to find the answers to, as if you're in a bookstore and you find a book with this title. So let me explain to you the significators that I'm choosing. The first one is Luna. Luna is going to tell me about the darkness and everything that maybe still didn't surface, maybe things that you don't know, maybe things that you should know. Then we have Solar Deity. Solar Deity is going to tell us what you should know. Maybe there is like still somewhere lingering, maybe it is too bright for you, maybe it's too close to your eyes, but you're going to realize that maybe you know that. Then we have Reason. Many of us are asking, why? That's the hardest question as a therapist and as a reader to really answer. Why? Because we people, we don't really make too much sense when it comes to love. So we're going to try to answer it within this card. Then we have the card guidance. Let's see, because it's your mirror soul, what do you need to find out about this person? If you guys still didn't read my introduction to this series, please check somewhere in this corner before you proceed, because it's going to tell you really how and what I see it. I see it as a mirror, and that's why this is called Mirror Healing Series. Then we are getting to the Tower, and the Tower is going to tell us about what needs to break. It is like always a time that certain things cannot grow anymore, and maybe they cannot grow because they're not sustainable. Maybe, we need to kind of change us. Maybe they need to change. Whatever it is, we're going to discover it in this category. And the Chariot, a lovely card with pushing it forward. Where do we go? Which turn do we take? And then let's check the significance of all of this. Two of Chalices. Is there a kiss that is going to happen? Or what at this point of time is karma telling us? So, guys, shall we start? Hi Taurus, and welcome your twin flame reading for July 2018. This time around I really focused on kind of like Taurus sun sign, Taurus ascendant, Taurus moon, sort of like the emotional aspect, but also focused to the person that you're interacting. So kind of like these people who cross-watch Taurus, because their energy needs to come through for me to kind of read this. So some messages might be for you, and some messages might not be. So if it's not for you, just let it slide by. If it's for you, it's kind of good to absorb and just like see how basically this kind of progress. If you really want your own particular reading, the best is to get your private reading. And also to help me to do that in the future better, like your comments would be really helpful. So that kind of like gives me better energy to focus. So let's start. Let's see what is hidden from you in this situation. You have Prince of Cups reversed, you have a Seven of Pentacles reversed, and you have a false person. This is that Knight in the Shining Armor, and Seven of Pentacles is about building something. This is about healing, but they're both reversed. I'm wondering if you guys had some kind of like interference over here with your love life, with your situation, because this definitely is talking about a lack of commitment in the situation. Somebody was very romantic, and somebody still see themselves that way, as sort of like knight in the shining armor, but they are not even able to understand, or they're not willing to tell you that this kind of like has been sort of like a farce. Maybe they're calling it mysterious. Sometimes people kind of like play that game, but there's like definitely kind of like interesting. We have two people wearing masks over here, right? Almost like, I don't know, it could be even sinister, it could be playful, but whether or not there is like sort of like talking about drama queens, you know, or drama kings, lovers, you know, or lovers in trouble, or lovers of trouble, manipulators, and sort of like frenemies. But in any case, this is kind of like watch out card. You know, this actually can turn beneficial, but definitely this card to me always talks about lies. And honestly, all I can see here is lies, lies, lies. And this is something you unfortunately are not fully aware of. You kind of like really believe in sweet nothing. Somebody was telling you, no, no, we are going all the way. We are going somewhere. So this is telling me to tell you, don't trust everything. You need to kind of like go back and even kind of like put a question mark on everything that kind of looked like sugar, but maybe it just was salt, right? It was talking some kind of dishonesty. Somebody was telling you such nice things. This Knight of Cups is a real wonderful person, a very loving energy, but when it's reversed, somebody kind of like just has this movie that they actually verbalize. Oh, you know, we're going to live happily after, we're going to have 3 children, but they don't mean you, we. It is him or her with somebody who they have in their own head as a motivation, where silly us, we think, well, you know, they're including us when they say this kind of like we card. Usually people use we, and this card, this Knight of Cups reverse, definitely uses this we card when he wants to achieve something in the present. So there is a person who's promising a future just to abuse you in the present, just to get something they want. It's definitely, you know, a mistake or a faux pas, and it's some kind of like deceitful or dishonest person, somebody kind of who's dealing literally behind you, right? So sort of like there is some kind of awareness about some kind of mystery. You probably know it, but you don't even know, because it looks like to me that you really didn't scratch your surface, right? You see, the fan and the mask over here kind of suggests this kind of like masquerade, right? A ball, which is sort of like ideal scenario for falsehood, if you really wish. You know, mask means personality, actually. So behind the costumes and mask, you indeed can be somebody else. So if you come to basically the ball, to the costume ball as a vampire, it doesn't mean you are one. So the truth here is that not everything you have seen was the way it was, right? Which is the real you and which is the false you. Somebody definitely didn't give you who they really are, and you actually are not even aware of it yet. Well, now you are. But let's see what you do know. What you do know is, whoa, 2 of Cups and 3 of Pentacles and the community. It was reversed, and I think it's significant it was reversed. Generally, I look at these kind of cards upright, but 2 of Cups, kind of like something ended. Like it feels like it was the end of love. It feels that you guys need to rebuild yourself. Or maybe you are trying to stay with this person for the sake of the family, for the sake of the community, for the sake of the people who, you know, are there for you, who kind of have high expectations from you. You're Taurus. To you, that family and home is extremely important. And it's also important to you what people think about you. You're Earth sign, you don't move very fast, but, you know, there is a reason for that, because you kind of like believe in that slow and steady. So this definitely tells me sort of like there was on your part, or maybe somehow here a combination of trying to figure this situation out, trying to figure out how to make it work. And it looks like something has been working on the surface, but it hasn't been working under the surface, and maybe yet you have to kind of discover it. So let's see here the reasons that are hiding behind this, reasons that need to be kind of like put out in the open. Well, we have the Strength, and this one is the 11 cards, so here you go, you have the confirmation that this is a twin flame, and Princess of Cups. And look at this cobra that she has here on her third eye. Can you see it? Oh, it's not really clarifying. Come on. There you go. You see this cobra? And poverty. The Strength card to me is, but also this is combining with Judgment card. It's always, and look how she's almost kind of dropping. It's almost kind of like a tease, dropping her dress. And there is this kind of like lion energy that I over here, which is the energy of pride, which is the energy of, you know, commitment. It is the energy of kind of like not going to that place where you kind of explode and kind of like trying to keep it under the wraps. And trying to rework this. Princess of Cups is like offer, a love offer. It kind of like maybe felt, well, maybe this is going to go somewhere. You know, this is kind of like a promising card, but it's sort of like still describing somebody who is not fully mature emotionally, somebody who is just like still exploring the things. Sort of like it's saying the lesson here was there for you to kind of like really see how it feels, because you have the Princess of Cups and then you have basically the Prince of Cups over here. So they kind of like do make this kind of, let's say, couple that is kind of like exploring different kind of like possibilities. And I do believe here that it was maybe communication about some kind of strong commitment. But, you know, I don't know, you might also, I see also Scorpio, I see Leo over here. I do see actually water signs as well, but also I think the earth that is coming through can be you, and it's sort of like this very supportive element that I'm feeling around. But this to you is something that you absolutely dread, right? So this is kind of like a really challenging card in this deck, in Kipper. So look at this, almost like dirty clothes, 19th century, kind of like Britain, abandoned, you know, and orphan boys were actually purchased for sort of like labor, or they had to actually climb inside chimneys to clean kind of like this, everything that could be flammable. And sometimes they had to do it while things were actually on fire. It was basically a miserable child slavery, and really sort of like not something that any human would really have to go through, right? Definitely to me that talks about some kind of abuse. It is really talking to me about abuse of trust. It is talking to me abuse of bond that kind of has been experienced. Maybe, you know, it represented sort of like a bad position, and maybe that more or less emotional poverty. I really think somebody here really didn't have the depth that they thought they will be able to mask themselves into. Oh, I love you to death, writing poems, being very romantic, buying flowers, and then just not being able to walk the walk, right? And talk is cheap. Because here, this is just telling me that this is not definitely the path to take, right? This cannot be the direction in where we want to be, and it maybe you feel like almost like ruled by this person. Maybe almost you feel that kind of like you have been deprived in emotional matters and feeling defenseless and feeling unloved. I also feel that you feel that all the kind of like dirty things in a relationship, especially if you live with somebody, are kind of left out to you. You kind of like have to do it, and it's kind of like you're finding very difficult to maintain everything, and it's kind of like romance and commitment and taking care of the family and everything, and just somebody just, you know, things that can just like waltz in and waltz out from your life. You're sort of like getting a glimpse of that understanding. So let's see what's the guidance in this situation. Whoa, you have 5 of Pentacles and 2 of Wands and distant horizons. Five of Pentacles definitely talks about being left out in the cold. Definitely talks about struggle. And I guess that kind of could be a poverty card. I don't know if you guys have been going through something serious. Did somebody maybe take you for a ride? Maybe you have invested in somebody, because this is now coming through. You were you're thinking you're building something. Maybe sort of like you had that person that they call it Klingon, who was just grabbing what they can take, and they knew that with sweet words they could get anywhere. And that kind of like left you kind of like wondering what the heck is happening and why to go in this direction and so on and so forth. But the Two of Wands is actually a promising card. The Two of Wands is talking about kind of like getting your pride back. You're a fixed sign. You know, you can't really be abused, not for too long, because if you're abused, you let people do that. And you really wanted that nice, happy ending for you. You kind of like really wanted to enjoy it. You kind of like almost like presenting on the outside such a kind of like a face, but inside you're abused and you have been manipulated, and you do actually feel at times really, really small. And I think this kind of like sense of, you know, this poverty doesn't mean that you can be a millionaire and still feel poor, right? It can be simply that something about soul is missing. Somebody is missing some element of humanity over here. But here in guidance is like saying, look, you need to come up with a plan. You kind of like, look, you need to kind of lift your anchor over here. You kind of like need to start moving forward, right? This is kind of like enabling and positive card. It's sort of like almost like a dream-like ship and a bird and a freedom kind of like going forward. To me, that also talks about somebody who might be a long distance or some definitely travel, but it's also talking to me about possibly developing new views, becoming more spiritual, more philosophical. Maybe you have been exposed to something that is kind of like setting you on a new path. Maybe, you know, you're realizing something that you're dreading, and you're realizing that maybe you focus thinking too much about what you're dreading, and that's kind of started to create, almost like to materialize, you know, like how the brain cannot process the negative thoughts. And usually when you think about something negative, that's the very thing that comes to you. So that's why you cannot make affirmations in the negative. So I don't know, this is definitely a vision. It is maybe even talking about some kind of fantasy, but fantasy is really good with what I'm seeing over here. It looks like you have been put down, you have been led down the garden path, and then you have been kind of like disappointed. So now, kind of like, why not to dream? And it has to be a nice dream, and hopes, you know, should actually be done. And this is also talking about like if you were silver lining on the horizon, and that can talk about, I don't know, foreign countries and wanderlust, voyages, but definitely kind of like broadening horizons and kind of like, as I said, new perspectives, new vision. It has to do quite a bit with water and with liquidity. So drinks, ocean, seas. I really think this to me really talks about spirituality and talks about detox. This is your card, Pentacles, not this one, but Pentacles is your element. And like, I mean, we have seen this Pentacles, so like now you have 3, 5, and 7, or very kind of like unstable cards, right? But here you're having the, you had the Princess of Cups, right? Which is kind of like saying, look, it was like nothing really wrong with what you did. You kind of like simply have been going through a very destabilizing situation. And you kind of like need to realize that, you know, it is what it is. This person is always going to be destabilizing for some reason or the other. So let's see here what, you know, really needs to be shaken down. Like, I'm going to tell you about the processes, about the situations you really need to tend to, because they are not sustainable anymore. Well, you have the Empress. That definitely is your card. And you have 6 of Pentacles, and you have thoughts. Wow. Wow. Here we have the earth, the world, the earth, birth. Birth, I guess, is what world and earth means together. So that's, look at this, even bringing the ruby over here. This card represents you in Libra. It represents Venus, represents beauty. It represents seeing beauty all over again. Maybe you have dedicated too much time being a mother and taking care of the closest ones, because the Six of Pentacles is telling me that, or somebody, right? Some kind of like energy here, because Six of Pentacles is that energy that talks about the balance. You see how he's holding the balls in the air. So some of these balls have dropped now in the situation. That balance is no longer there. This can actually also talk that somebody thinks they're doing the right thing. Maybe you do. But the truth is, what is the right thing for you, Taurus? That is sort of like really big question. You kind of like really pride yourself being pretty much everything. Empress doesn't need anybody's advice. She just keeps going. She's very mature. She's like great mother. She could be pregnant. But you know, it also really talks about sometimes kind of like being lost, because this is telling you here on the Tower that you have lost yourself into kind of trying to be the most perfect person you can want to be. This is the perfect woman, which when they had tarot, they kind of like depicted this perfect woman or the mother figure with the Empress, but no longer. Right now, like I'm in with sort of like the sex that is basically taped over everything. It's no longer that's the perfect woman. So like now, sort of like there's going to be the seductiveness of the cups, or so even kind of like Queen of Cups reversed or Queen of Wands reversed, somebody who's going to tease you with sexuality, right? So this is telling you that, first of all, you actually have been just you. So you shouldn't be punished for being you. The thoughts, it's kind of like really interesting because it is talking about making new plans. Maybe you kind of like kept going. You know what they say, keep doing the same things over and over and expecting different results, right? Because this also talks about, it used to be called his thoughts in this card, but given that this is like to you falling on this category, it's telling me about some kind of like preoccupation, and you need to kind of like take your eye off some kind of ball, literally the other way around, right? You may have been too thoughtful as a person. There is like definitely sort of like, again, we have the essence of a painted picture. Definitely we have the expectations in this card. You kind of like really, sadly to say, you kind of like really need to drop it, right? Because it's also telling me that you have been extremely considerate of the others, but have they been considerate about you? It is thinking about, you know, a love or a person or a family member, somebody you're really, really connected, but it's definitely seeming somehow platonic, because it is really telling me this person here, because look at this, all unknown, null the fire, was really looking for something highly sexual and highly sexual engaging. As I told you, they were selling you on the future with that we, but they were like really looking how they get what they want to get, and sort of like they sort of stripped you of maybe dignity, of a whole bunch of things. You're kind of realizing this, the guidance is like, look, you need to get out of this space. It wasn't you. You have been trying to be you, but with this person, this didn't work. In this kind of situation, like you're thinking, you're thoughtful, you're loving, and they're just grabbing. It's a give and take relationship where you give and they take. You have to figure out, is this kind of like working for you? So let's see where the journey is taking you with this person. You have Four of Cups, and you have the Fool, and you have Concern. Well, that's a really mixed energy. Sort of like, yes, you want to move forward, you want to move up, but you also want to move down. Look at in this Four of Cups rendition, we actually see that this person is not even realizing that love does exist around him or her. The lotus is closing or closed. It's kind of like not aiming for the sun. Like, this person is not kind of like suffering. There is like food, there is drinks, there's like a really beautiful castle, horses, really everything that most of us would desire. This person is still kind of like resigned to something that is happening deeply inside of them. Look, isn't this sort of like the same? They're both spending these processes, and here we have another master number, so 33. So it's interesting. When I started this series, every single sign had this master number. It's just like you cannot miss it. So it's kind of like really interesting here, because look, in this kind of concern card here, he's sitting in this like beautiful window, beautiful flower. There's like some kind of like essence of you kind of like need to free yourself from kind of like some opposition, from some kind of situation. It's kind of like you will be much more well off if you do. But instead, kind of like, you know, it's kind of like this person is depressed, maybe, you know, really just like deep inside of their own thoughts, because he's even putting the hand on the mouth and this one on the head. So it's kind of like affecting, I cannot speak about that anymore. I'm saying, I don't even want to think about this anymore. So, right, really together, maybe, yeah, it is indicating the depressed mental state, and it's definitely some kind of like negative tendency over here. And it's sort of like the daily life that kind of like we don't know what is our next step. You kind of like have a clear idea. You have this Fool. Fool is a really good card. Fool is saying you need to spend time outdoors. And you know, like the indoors is really going to kind of have a depressing mode. But sort of in the sun, you may be just needing the vitamin, the sun vitamin. But this is really telling me that maybe there is like sort of like some kind of like concentration of the problems. Maybe they could be also financial problems, and something that is connecting to this kind of like person. Maybe you have invested in this person, and now you're realizing that investment is not going to come back. This can be both financial and emotional investment. And it is a time to move forward. Fool is actually a really nice card. I do have a love-hate relationship with this card, but in this particular deck, it's such a lovely rendition of somebody who is very trusting. And that sort of like is really peeking through, and look at how much stronger. This is that light that is shining on both of them, right? So this is definitely still mulling it over about some rejection and deception and pessimism and feeling panicky and desperate, and something that really ended in love. But the Fool is not necessarily a card being with someone. It's saying, look, you actually have something that many people don't have. As you have here in the community, and you have here in the Fool. See, this little doggy represents society. It represents how we actually dance with that society on the tip of our fingers, like it's a special light coming down. This is God's energy, and it is calling you. It's saying you can go high, or you can go low. And when they go low, you go high. And this is kind of like a journey where you're going through. Sure, you're going to go through really both thinking through your head, both thinking through your heart, but also having a really clear direction that you sort of like need to lift up over this kind of like issues, and sort of like resolve this kind of like mystery. Look at all this thinking that is happening. But you guys are certainly getting this motion forward. Really, really are getting, and the 33 is a really positive number. So let's see the messages from your twin flame. Wow, 8 of Cups. Isn't he looking like Travolta? The Moon. Adjudication. So I don't know, do you have any legal issues you need to resolve with this person? It's kind of like looking back, okay? You know, they're calling this 5 of Cups spilled milk card in the other Rider-Waite decks. In this deck, I see this one. This person is looking at the past. This person is reassessing everything that has happened. It's kind of like with sadness, this person is going to realize not much is there for me, but I cannot stop looking at it. These are messages that this person has been deceitful. This person is actually dealing with their own fears, with their own emotional inability, and they think that you are not the one. But they also don't really know who is the one. They kind of like know if they come to any kind of arbitration. This again is your karma card. It's confirming. They do see you as a very important part of their journey. But they at the same time they don't know themselves, and that's the problem. And you are an earth sign, like, and there's like this card 9 of Pentacles that to me always is a good signal. It means you're finally in touch with yourself. You really do know what you can contribute, and that's the best thing to know, and then you can kind of start moving forward. But here it's kind of like that water energy, you know, like sort of like almost like Cancer energy, and you have a Pisces energy over here. Looking back, this person is definitely very emotional. This person kind of like lives for romance, but it's more or less like a movie. I don't know how to explain it. It's not something they kind of like want to swim in. It's something they want to see and then exit. It's almost like, you know, Casanova. It's somebody who is going to visit you, but they actually never have an intention of staying or taking it further. And I don't know if this is a divorce or sort of like there is like some kind of verdict. There is like some kind of adjudication going on. They're looking at the situation. They're looking at you. I don't know. Maybe they even think they have lost. And that's what usually happens. You start being aware of what you had once when it's gone. And let me see the karmic messages for you, my dear Taurus. Prince of Pentacles and 9 of Swords reversed and Great Fortune. So, good card for you. This is about long term. And karma is saying, and I think you are just at the inception of something. You're now taking almost like all these life circumstances and things that you have been gone in the past, and it looks like quite a bit. It has been love, has been promises of love, you know, like sort of like waiting for love and being excited, and then opening your door and realizing, wait a minute, this was all an illusion. This person was not who he or she was. And then realization, look, I have so much to offer. You might actually have somebody else in your side, but more or less, this is kind of like you getting kind of like completely, there is like really that sense of, again, closing your heart chakra, closing your hands to something that kind of like shouldn't work. And in this case, you're closing that aspect of anxiety. This card is definitely, to me, one of the worst cards in this entire deck. Everything is collapsing, this clinging thing, clinging and collapsing thing. So he's kind of like looking at it and saying, no more, no more. I have been through thick and thin. I have been stabbed, backstabbed. I spent sleepless nights. I kind of haven't gone through this. And yeah, like no matter how I tried, it's kind of like didn't bring me fortune. So it is kind of like really that understanding that something was very unfortunate is actually a fortune in itself. It's kind of understanding that you have to be yourself and you have to continue being who you are, reliable, trustworthy, and building something really, really long term. I don't know if you have any Capricorn friend or somebody who is there for you, but this is certainly the energy that is coming through. Sort of like, look, I'm coming back. I will rebuild myself back. I'm starting again. And maybe some of you are also starting some kind of like new business. Maybe you have lost a part of the business by being involved with this person. But you know what? This person is very determined. Look at this. I'm going to claim something to be mine. And it's the stubbornness that need to be kind of like pressed in you, recharged in you, because you have been very mellow with this person and so sort of like to some extent down on your knees. I would not say that you were begging, but like the best parts of you, this person just like couldn't acknowledge. And you were twisting and turning to be something different, and it's clearly stating that it's not working out. So you guys just had been manipulated by somebody who just has been not true. But if this is any consolation to you, they also don't know who they are and what they are doing. And that is a big lesson, that it's not only knowing who we are, but also we need to know who they are. And usually just have to wait this person was really good at camouflaging themselves. I really give you this because usually you are a really good judge of character. And to seal this reading, I have pulled one more card, and you got Sacred Pool. As you can see, 4 and 7, 11, you're again getting this healing energy over here. And this is what it says. The world is a reflection of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Embody the love you wish to see in the world. When you look in the mirror, do you like what you see? The Sacred Pool card asks that you focus on self-love and self-esteem. We all are works in progress, so a detached self-examination made with rigorous honesty is called for now. Reflect by the Sacred Pool and be at peace with yourself. Can you see how far you have come and how magical your life is? Do you notice the spark of the divine shining through your eyes? That will be your spark of divine here. When you're conscious that you are the embodiment of spirit, it becomes easier to respect yourself and act in good conscience. Then you'll reap the greatest rewards. Your unique service to the world is not only needed, but celebrated. See the love within you and know that if you cast it upon the waters, it will return to you tenfold. Be at peace, for you are beautiful and loved. Act with charity and confidence, and success shall be yours. Enjoy it. Guys, maybe you have lost somebody here, and I can see that. Somebody who hasn't been true to you or for themselves. But you actually have so many people around you who are there for you. And you need to focus on that. This is definitely the healing energy, and you kind of like have to kind of like give your gratitude to the fact that you actually still have that, which is much more than what the other people do have it. So my dear Taurus, and again, your comments, suggestions will be more than welcome. And if you haven't subscribed, I really appreciate if you do. And if you already subscribed, thank you so much for being still here with me. And also, if you want to get the reading with me, check me on cattarot.ca. And there are also student readings that they're practicing, and I'm kind of like supervising and checking all of these readings. You can check it down in the description. And until the next month, I love you, and I hope to see you on my other social media. All the best. I love you.